Hi, today's video is going to be a bit different. Today I am here to present you an Excel case. So this was something that one of my viewers asked me, and I actually found this case to be extremely difficult. And honestly, the solution that I came up with is not really that good in my opinion. The file will be available on my website, and I'll also post my solution as well, but I want to try to find a better solution out there and share it with people as well. So the problem itself is very simple. So we just have to assess the total amount paid for each employee in their shift. So we have employees from 1 to 20, and they have different start times and end times. So it's from AM to PM and etc. And this is their schedule. Now in the comments, we can see that 9 PM to 7 AM is considered night shift with $22 per hour. Standard is 7 AM to 3 PM, $15 per hour, and then evening is 3 PM to 9 PM, $18 per hour. So the details are very simple. You just have to calculate their hourly rate based on the shift that you have here. However, what I didn't realize was that I think Excel's approach in analyzing times is just not that great. And when I was trying to analyze this, I just didn't really know how to do this efficiently. Again, this is a challenge for everyone, and right after this section, I will then go over the solution that I came up with. So here is my solution file. I know it looks very messy, and I just didn't really spend time formatting it because I had to focus on the actual details of how I would solve this. But essentially, the very first thing that I did was try to break down these time values into actual numerical values. So here we see that we have 1 AM, and if I change this to general, I can see that the value of this is 0.041667. So then I documented here 1 hour is equal to the value of 0.041667, and then a minute, which is just divided by 60, is 0.000694. The reason why I came up with that was I remember Excel also stored dates in numerical values as well. Like if I typed January 31, 2025, and then I converted this into a general, it will have a serial number. So I thought Excel might do the same thing for time as well. And luckily I was right, and they do have a numerical value. So essentially for all these times, all I have to do is just add this hour value to this time to get each hourly interval from 1 AM all the way to 12 AM. And then I built an index table, which I've also assigned a numerical value. So 1 is just 1 AM, 24 is 12 AM. And then I also labeled which ones fell in the categories of night, evening, and standard based on the comments provided here. And then lastly, I also documented their hourly rate between 22, 15, and 18 between evening, standard, and night. I have some additional details here, but I don't think I really use these. And so in my solution, I set up a schedule from 1 AM all the way to 12 AM. And then from the table that I had set up over here, I brought in the relevant details over here, just using a standard XLOOKUP. And then I also assigned a numerical value of the shift start value and shift end value based on the times for each employee. So if they started at 7 AM, they would have a start value of 7, and they ended at 3:15 PM, they would have an end value of 15.25. So if you're following, I essentially use these values and the numerical values that I assigned over here to then try to determine which periods were active. By using these numerical values, it just made it more easier for me to wrap my head around rather than using this decimal number. So essentially in my formula, it looks a little bit complicated, but essentially what I did here was if M7, which is my number value, which is the start hour of the shift, is greater or equal to the shift start value, but it's less than or equal to the shift end value, I assign 1 hour of active time. Now, normally this is all you need to do for the schedule, but there are times when the end value is actually less than the start value. So if someone starts at like 11 PM, so if I could find an example somewhere right here. So if someone started at 11 PM and they ended at 7:25 AM. So the shift end value is actually lower than the shift start value. So if I had just used this formula. So let's actually delete everything. You'll come to realize that the results are all 0 just because the end value is less than the start value. So in my formula, what I had to do was if C16 is greater than B, or well, if the end value is greater than the start value, then it'll calculate it normally. But if not, then if or the hour value is greater than the start value, or it's less than the end value, then it'll assign a value of 1. So here you can see in this example where if this value is greater than 23, so it'll only count 11 p.m. and 12 a.m. Or if it's less than the end value, which is from 1 a.m. to 7:25 a.m., it'll assign 1. So this, for the most part, should cover all these scenarios aside for these decimal places. And then over here is just factoring in the decimal places. So essentially, if the round down value of the start value or end value equals the value that I'm assessing, it will, you'll notice that it subtracts so that it calculates the decimal places. And then I just have a check here to make sure that they're all 8.25 hours. From here, I just calculated the total values of standard evening and night multiplied by the hourly rate that we have here to get the breakdown of each employee. Now that I've set the solution like this, I think it is a little bit easier to follow, but trying to brainstorm around this was quite difficult, and this definitely, I feel like, is very complicated for what it is, and there must be an easier way to do this. And this model, I think, is streamlinable in a way, because if you document the start and end date by different days of employees in a table format, whereas this would be like day 1, day 2, day 3 for the same employee, you still have the schedule. All you have to do is just extend it down to the rows. But if you have a better solution, I am very curious to see how you would solve it. But overall, I still do think this is overcomplicated. So if you have a better way, please do tell me. And I also highly do recommend for you to try this.